Sora is now launched for a small batch of people.
I'm sure bots will make video, but they're all going to make video and it'll become all noise. The thing about content is that it needs to be marginally better or different than the other content for anyone to care. It's arms dealing. If everyone has it, then yes, there's more of all of it, but it actually has no impact.
It's like prompt engineering. It depends how you're tailoring the video to suit your brand and your message. I think this amplifies creators. With everything in AI, it's really about the eye of the editor now.
Isn't there going to be margin expansion for big studios? Like the spoils of the AI war with Sora and video are also going to go to the big guys in media. They're not going to go to the long tail creators.
I think it's sort of true that you just might have factory farmed video everywhere else. I also kind of buy that there'll be like leading edge creatives who use this technology in new ways. That's been the pattern throughout history.
There will be the Jake Paul of this, right?
Or the George Lucas, maybe, to put
better analogy, Jess.
Well, hello. Welcome to another episode of More or Less with the Morons and Lessons. It's just the four of us, guys. No guests this week. This is all we got. We got to bring it.
Here.
We're all here.
I know.
Britt, we missed you last week. You had to do some business.
Thank you. I had like a whole day offsite with one of our portfolio companies. So sorry, guys. But I did listen. I was very intrigued by everything Aaron Levy had to say.
Very intrigued. He's an intriguing guy. Britt, you know what I'm intrigued about?
Good feedback.
I would love to hear what it was like to be at the final concert of the Eras tour. Was very jealous. Saw your photos.
Yes. That was also not why I missed the pod, just to be clear.
Yes. No. New topic.
Company offsite. But yeah, separately, I went to the last show. I will say I was a little disappointed, Jess.
What?
No.
There was a lot of expectation that there would be a special
She's
guest.
been saving this opinion.
A big announcement.
She came back all flowers and roses.
Good. She's saving her opinions for the pod. I love it. Smart lady.
I'm questioning her entire attitude this week all of a sudden.
On the flight to Vancouver, I was on Reddit in the Taylor Swift, deep in the subthreads, like from Taylor Swift.
Oh, God.
Oh, so your expectations were too high.
No, actually, the Reddit threads were telling me nothing crazy is going to happen tonight. She's going to close it out just as she's done. It's going to be just her. It's the final goodbye. So she doesn't want all the fluff and the jazz. It's just going to be pure Eras Tour, Taylor Swift essence. And it was. And so while I was disappointed, thankfully we had Reddit, shout out to tech, to give me what I needed to hear from all my fellow Swifties, which was not to have too high of expectations. And so then it was an amazing show. She did some amazing surprise songs that were all about the goodbye and the closure. And now I'm excited because I think she did leave it. There's something dangling for sure. Like there's an announcement to come. Her birthday is this Friday, the day that this podcast episode gets released. And I'm really hoping that's when the announcement comes. It's her birthday gift to us. But I don't know. Maybe my expectations are too high again.
Yeah, maybe she's just over it. She's just like, I did how many shows did you do?
149.
Wow.
149. Not that I'm a superstar.
Made like $2.1 billion, and she's just like, I'm out. I'm tired.
Taylor's dropping the mic.
Has anyone figured out what the economic impact is of Taylor stopping this tour? Is like the economy going to fall apart now?
It might.
I think she added at least $10 billion to the different economies of the cities that she toured in.
In total?
Yeah.
There's been reporting on this.
By the way, it was so evident in Vancouver. I walked down the street. Everywhere I went, there was a coffee shop, a restaurant, everyone's playing Taylor Swift. I went to there's a Swiftie hot chocolate station popped up in the lobby of our hotel. Those hot chocolates were $15 a piece. I was like, this is a high margin business thanks to Taylor Swift. And all they did was they just added sprinkles on top. That was the Taylor Swift version.
I'm surprised that Trump didn't tell Trudeau that we were taking back Taylor unless they fixed the border. Sounds like a big part of their economy.
You mean the 51st state of America?
Yeah.
Taylor diplomacy.
Oh, wow.
Guys, last thing to show you. Dave, this was actually my present for you. I forgot to give it to you.
Oh, thanks.
Guess how much I paid for this chocolate bar?
It was like $1,000.
It was like really expensive, but I was
It was more than that, Sam.
I was like, Dave didn't get to come with me, and he's kind of more Swiftie than I am, so I'm going to get him this memorabilia.
Aren't you an NFT person? You should like put it in plexiglass and
Okay, Brit's showing a Willy Wonka style chocolate bar for those who aren't on the video feed, which you should be always. Okay, didn't go to the Eras tour. Love Taylor
Oh,
Swift.
you didn't? You never went once?
Couldn't make it work.
Oh, wow. It was amazing. It was a something.
I know this is shocking to people, but
There's a documentary apparently coming, rumored to be coming, so you'll feel like you went after you watched it.
I watched the whole. I mean, I watched the video of the whole thing.
I know, but now there's
And then
documentary.
no,
too.
I know. I'm looking forward to that. I am going to see Billie Eilish tonight, though, so don't shed a tear.
Nice.
Ooh, dark.
Dark, yeah, moody. Well, it was a packed news week, guys. Not just Taylor. We had a ton of tech news. We have the PayPal mafia taking over the government. We have the arrest of the United Healthcare CEO killer, Luigi Mangione, who turns out to have some really deep tech ties. We've got TikTok maybe getting the final axe. We don't know. Lots of reporting and speculation around that, which will come to head in the coming weeks. What have I missed? What else do we have before we get into it?
Sora is now launched for a small batch of people, which is OpenAI's, video AI technology.
Britt, have you played with it?
Well, about 3 minutes ago, I sent a back channel note to someone we all know and was like, why am I on the wait list? Please get me in.
Okay, let us know.
Their wait list has been flooded, so they're letting people in batches. So I'm trying to be in on it.
Where do I find it?
look, I'll be honest, I just don't care. Like, I just have no interest in this technology. It's cool.
Sora.com, Dave. Really?
Sam AI don't care. All AI. What about another topic? The agents are coming too. We got to talk about agents.
Sam's built a successful brand around that.
It's like it just seems pure. Like, what do you expect to do with Sora once you're in the demo that's exciting? You're going to make like a video for some random reason?
Yeah.
Doing what?
For a random reason. For literally
I'm
content.
gonna make a video of you.
Marketing on the internet.
It's not going to work.
Content creation.
It's not.
It is going to work. They've done
it'll
all these
work,
creators that are in have started doing these YouTube videos trying to have you guess which was Sora and which was actually filmed. And people are getting them all wrong.
You can always tell.
But it doesn't matter.
No, they're tricking people. And by the way, here's a fun fact from your data friend, Britt. In 2021, the average daily time spent on digital video on the internet was 3 hours. 4 years later, it's like 4 hours. So it's increased by a significant amount just in 4 years. Digital video is becoming incredibly meaningful on the internet, and Sora is going to be a huge part of it.
Maybe.
But we're making video now. Why do we need Sora? And wouldn't people rather just clickety click on our face?
And no one's watching this video. It's like they're just listening to the podcast.
No, they watch the videos, and people are going to start using this for commercials.
They are increasingly watching the videos, Sam, say our analytics.
I looked at the analytics. Strong growth team.
I can't. That's kind of like it's like YouTube Music. People play the videos. It's in their web browser. They find, but they're not. No, why would you look at our faces? Makes no sense.
I'm long here.
I don't know.
Sam, I think you're behind the times on this one.
Okay, we know what mood Sam's in, everybody.
I'm with Sam on the what, do we not have enough humans making video, so we need bots to make video too?
No, look, to be clear, I'm sure bots will make video, but they're all going to make video and it'll become all noise. Like, it's not, it's just, there's zero margin in it. It's not that you can't do it. It's just that it's boring, right?
I think it's going to be hybrid. There's going to be some video that's AI generated coupled with video that's professionally shot, and you're not going to know the difference. And it's going to help editors and creators cut down the time and costs that it takes to make a video. And so that's the easy answer.
Fine. And so they'll make more video and it'll all be noise.
Sam, you are investing in creators with the Creator Fund. Do you think that there's a way that helps them be more efficient or better monetize what they do?
No, I think it's a war of attrition because I think they'll all just make more video and there's going to be no margin in it for any of them. Like, what the margin is in brand and trust and the voice that is differentiated, the community. The video is just content. And the thing about content is that it needs to be marginally better or different than the other content for anyone to care. And if everyone it's arms dealing. If everyone has it, then yes, there's more of all of it, but it actually has no impact.
It's like prompt engineering. It depends how you're tailoring the video to suit your brand and your message, your how you're editing it in to your content that you already are shooting. I think this amplifies creators for the long term. And like, trust me, I've run media businesses. Like, yes, I believe in there's a
Mhm.
lot of content that can be commoditized, but that's why with everything in AI, it's really about the eye of the editor now. It's like, can you use this in a new way that's different, that does make people stop and want to spend their time watching
I
it.
just think it's all pop music. It'll all wash out to zero. That doesn't mean it doesn't happen or get used a bunch. I just don't think there'll be margin in it. I think like, and you'll, it doesn't mean there isn't margin in the world. It's just going to be, it's kind of like, in some ways, you know what I'd say? Here would be my analogy is, you know how all the kids now like hate photo filters and post like super unposed raw Instagram shit. It's like, there's like this anti filter thing going on. Like that's the future, right? And it's going to be exactly the same thing. This is just like hyper filters or hyper content. It'll be cute and playful for a little bit, and then people will get completely bored of it, and it'll all get washed out. And like we're gonna go back to like Polaroids, right? And like authenticity being the coin of the realm. So I understand. I'm not saying it won't be used. It'll be playful. It'll be silly. I just don't think it matters that much, right? In the grand scheme of things.
Won't the spoils also go to the big guys, right? Like the content production studios. My understanding is that a lot of the margin lost is in changes being made at the very end of very large, very expensive productions where they have to, rebuild the set. They have to like get all the actors to come back and reshoot the thing. And so isn't that where this technology is going
Mm,
to dramatically, maybe not dramatic might be a little bit of hyperbole, but isn't there going to be margin expansion for big studios?
Sure.
Like the same thing that's going on. Sam, you've made this point quite repeatedly that the spoils of the AI war go to the big guys. In tech, I think the same thing goes for media. Like the spoils of the AI war with Sora and video are also going to go to the big guys in media. They're not going to go to the long tail creators.
Well, the big guys in media are getting smaller and less big, so that might just be relevant to point out. The bit
Well, that's
easier
true.
to disrupt.
But it's the same old studios, right? It's the same old, Paramount and blah blah blah.
Yeah, some of them are still around, but
I just think any sort of like, all these editing tools are just you're gonna have to use them, but they're gonna provide no like fundamental value, right? Like, yeah, like it'll be fine.
why wouldn't you all of your creators that wanna make ads and make now you have to make video ads to actually capture attention, why wouldn't Sora be useful for them?
No, to be clear, they will have to use it because everyone will have to use things like it because it's a war of attrition for attention. It just won't actually
Yeah.
provide any net benefit to them. It's just the cost of doing business goes up, right? Is the way I would look at it.
Yeah, it's just the tool changes but it's the same business, the tool's different.
The temperature gets hotter. Like all of a sudden, you're a creator. Instead of making one video, you're gonna have to make 10,000 videos, right? And you'll need the tools for it to compete with every other creator making 10,000 videos. And they'll all be hybrid. And whether or not you use Sora or something else, it doesn't really matter what you use. It's just a temperature rising.
So Sam, this actually makes me want to ask you a question about the creator business.
Ooh.
Like that implies that the creator business itself is a war of attrition
Let me answer that actually quite.
and that is not a good venture business.
So I mean, this is why I would never invest in like Mr. Beast or anyone who's in the attention game, right? I actually think that that is a total war of attrition and not winnable long term. There'll always be someone else trying to grab attention by being hotter or being sillier or things like that for general eyeballs and attention. What I think is not a war of attrition and where you can get real lock in and what we actually spend time investing in is vertical creators who own a niche with trust, right? So you are the god of lawn care. You are the god of terrariums. This is like something we looked at. Like you're someone who like is deeply trusted in a specific domain, niche audience who loves you and trusts your judgment. It's actually
But you're
less
just
about the content, right? And more about actually the trust and the we'll call it the what are the semi-social relationship or the that you kind of create with a community of high trust.
parasocial.
Thank you. Parasocial relationship than it is the content. I think the content is a pure war of attrition.
Isn't the distribution of that trust up against the distribution in the attention game just like any other? Like they have to compete in the algorithm to get the attention of their trusted community just
Yeah,
like everybody
think
else.
I think that you can use algorithms to a point to grow, but actually the best creators are not intermediate by algorithms. They're people that actually you like so much that if they weren't in the algorithm, you'd go seek them out on a specific domain, right? So someone who's like,
Fair.
if you're the person I really trust about flying Cirrus aircraft and like all the latest gadgets for Cirrus, I will seek you out. I might discover you through the algorithm, and there is a competition for that. Temperature always rising. But that I actually think is like the true sign of a real relationship is it may come through the algorithm. You may discover it that way, but that's not where it actually lives, so to speak. And I think
And I guess to answer Britt's question, your point then is that those creators have no use for Sora because they don't need to create the 10,000 extra video clips. They only need to create the one that you, Sam, want to see for the niche interest you're
to be
into.
clear, they probably do have to create the 10,000 clips to compete with everyone else for some sort of initial attention, but the value is not in the 10,000 clips, right? The value, everything else is a war of attrition. The value is in when something amazing happens, there's a new device, there's a question I have, there's someone I go to, right? Effectively as a trusted friend and representative of the community that I care about. And they're the person that I listen to, right? It's trust. And there's a very big difference between economics based on attention, right, versus economics that are based on like trust and identity. And I actually think real creators build their businesses around trust and identity, not around attention.
Zooming
Right.
out, it's interesting that, I mean, the history of entertainment has actually been that new technologies have opened new types of entertainment. I mean, I see this through my brother, who we had on the pod, right? And who has been obsessed with this topic. And so I think it's sort of true that you just might have factory farmed video everywhere else. But I also kind of get Britt's point, not necessarily Sora per se, but like all the technology revolutions that have like powered, cameras and color cameras and so I also kind of buy that there'll be like leading edge creatives who use this technology in new ways. I just don't that's been the pattern throughout history.
Sure. And this is like, I mean, like there will be the Jake Paul of this, right? Because who came up on what
Or
was
the
it?
George Lucas, maybe to put a little more serious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Better analogy, Jess.
Thanks.
I
Okay.
think it's much more likely to be the Jake Paul, right? Of like,
Jake Paul's pretty big.
but I just don't think it just doesn't matter. It's like,
Well, Sam, it might matter if an entirely new category of content is created, right? Like that's I guess the argument that makes the most sense to me, which is that I'm like sitting here watching Sora's homepage kind of play on repeat, and there's a je ne sais quoi like feeling to AI video right now, which it feels very different than normal video. And so it's got like it's like a different medium in a lot of
so
ways.
the thing I'll agree with you on, Dave, and is an
It feels
old
dystopian. Does it feel dystopian to you guys?
But you have to kind of think that maybe that's going to iron itself out,
Yeah,
Jess.
I
But
think
yeah,
so.
I don't know. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it maintains that feeling.
I think the most likely place where maybe there could be a new type of content from it is something you and I talked about for the last 10 years, which is digital drugs, right? If you told me
Yeah.
what this really is a digital pill mill,
Oh,
right?
God.
Where like all of a sudden, like you want to feel a certain way and you start tuning the algorithm on demand to like digitally drug
Oh,
yourself out. That I believe, right? Like
In a positive way.
in whatever way you
Yeah,
want.
in whatever way you want.
Sora's
Yeah.
gonna be like the new Sacklers, like
Could be.
it's actually a much more efficient business model. For the drug trade from South America, it's like all the gangs are going to get into digital drugs because it's cheaper to deliver. Cut out the middlemen.
okay. So, and by that, Sam, you mean
And the
like,
middlemen are currently social media.
No, well, I mean, I was thinking like drug runners across the Mexican border. Like we don't need them anymore. We
Ah.
can just deliver
uh,
digital drugs over the top, over the air.
yeah.
Okay, can I do a quick segue back to the music thing? Because I do think
Yes.
generative music is also a huge category that we're going to need to watch over the next couple of years. But separate to that, did you guys get your Spotify Wrapped?
Yes.
I actually didn't even look at it, but I did look at
Okay.
my 8 Sleep Wrapped. And Sam has yet to come clean on his score. So this would be a good time.
Britt's just looking for more ways
No.
to brag about her Taylor Swiftiness.
No, I have a point here. I have 2 points, actually. First point,
Okay.
tech news. Spotify broke $100 billion last week for the first time ever. Second,
Yeah.
crazy stat. 50% of Spotify Wrapped users, so people who like open Spotify Wrapped, share the results to social media. Isn't that insane?
50%?
Yeah.
50%.
That makes sense, right? Like, I think
It's like
it's
the most viral marketing feature ever created.
well, I think it's interesting that people do all of this listening of music all year, and you kind of go through eras of music throughout the year and you forget about it. And
Yeah.
then this kind of shows you, and at least in my experience this year, there were some, difficult eras this year. I lost my dad this year. And so like there's like an era of music from that period, right? And then there's other eras, and so it's kind of so interesting to me that music listening is so transient. You kind of forget that you were in those chapters, so it makes sense to me that people see this and they say, oh yeah, like my year looked like that. And I'm kind of surprised that that artist was my number one or
Yeah,
whatever.
for instance, it tells me that in May was my pink Pilates Princess Strut pop season
That's my favorite version of you, Sam.
because I listened to Olivia Rodrigo, Dua Lipa, and Taylor Swift.
Yes, Sam.
Sam, we finally found the place where our interests overlap. I am also one of those.
Yes, there's the Venn diagram.
Are you a pop princess from Pilates? I will
Wait,
say,
I think I had that too.
Or wait.
Hold on.
I had it too, but that's obvious.
this is funny. My number one song is Freebird by Moonlight, which both Lion and I appreciate. It's a pretty fun song.
Wait, is it Freebird like Leonard Skinner, but a different version?
It's like the remix of it that they have in that extremely violent movie
Oh.
with the British people and the umbrellas. But I'm in the top 0.005% of listeners globally, which might mean I'm the top listener. That's like a pretty small number.
Wait,
Did
005?
you guys have a serotonin strut phase? No.
No, that's just you. I'm excited to learn.
Did you
more
have an
about that.
academic football modern rock moment?
Pirate movie tunes. That was when we did Pirates of the
See,
Caribbean.
guys, now we're boring the listeners. They don't care.
No, I had
My point is true. You wanted to share this so badly, didn't you?
psychedelic rhythm games classic rock phase.
That's classic.
Okay.
This used to be one screen. Hands up. Spotify has now made this an interactive experience.
Well, and believe it or not, at least I saw on social media they had fired the entire team. So this was what they were able to produce with no people using AI.
Oh, interesting.
Wow.
Guys, most viral marketing feature ever.
Big
I'm telling
theme.
you.
Here we are.
But while we're there, anyone want to share their 8 sleep score? Just saying. Sam, did you do your
97.
year in review? No, not last night. Did you do year in
Oh.
review?
Yeah, last night was terrible.
I'm a champion. I'm the top 10% of sleepers.
Wow.
I think that's low.
I bet I beat you. I want to beat you. Hold on.
I bet you beat me.
Britt's annoying. She shouldn't even get to participate.
Britt's just like a log of sleep.
Britt wins everything.
Oh, I'm not. Mine was.
This is when your podcast hosts all look down at their phone and try to,
Our editors should probably cut this part out, guys.
No, I just
What's
want to know.
happening?
If you don't know, browse over the course of the next topic and report back, because I think this is
Guys, all
important.
I know is it says I'm a striver. I'm in the top 10% lowest heart rates. What does that mean?
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Sam, you've got a cold heart.
I don't understand my overall score. This is not as well designed as Spotify.
Okay.
Wrapped.
No, they need help for sure.
They're both very slow.
We often say that this really brings everyone into our dinner time conversations, and I think we're really delivering on that.
We're really there.
So
Yeah, yeah.
we're right there. That welcome to dinner.
Honestly, my feedback for 8 Sleep is these loading graphics suck. They're so slow.
Yeah, I'm in 83. What were you, Jess?
Well, I was in the 90s, but then
Ooh, I'm only an 89.
Oh.
Okay.
But I slept terribly last night, so that's probably the problem.
But I think when Dave snores, it throws my score off.
Oh, come on.
Okay, guys, we got to get back. AI.
This is AI.
Bring us back.
This is AI.
Guys, the agents are here. They're here. We've been waiting for these agents. We've been waiting
Oh
to
yeah,
go.
what agent are you using?
Wait, there's agents at your door?
Maybe. That's a different topic. It's just constant UPS people.
All the AI agents do. The
Oh,
swarms.
AI agents.
Google today has shown some agents, and these agents can do things for you. Let me give you they changed the name, so I can't remember the name now, but now we're moving from worlds of AI that are chatbots that give us information to doing things like build a spreadsheet or call to make this reservation or so on and so forth. I know the answer to this, but Sam, what do you think about agents? It's going to be the buzzword of 2025. It's going to be everywhere.
I think 2014 called and wants its Alexa marketing back. I mean, like,
Yeah,
it's
totally.
like, I don't think people, it's not that I think the technology isn't marginally improving, but here's the biggest thing I think people don't understand is the problem with agents historically has not only been they don't work, is that the economics make no sense, right? And so here's the way to think about it is everyone has this dream that you're going to have this like agent that like does this shit. It buys you plane tickets, or it, says, I say, hey, I want to catch up with Dave once a month, make sure our calendars sync up, book us a restaurant, blah, 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 blah. It just magically happens.
I'd like that to happen.
That would be awesome. That's the
Oh,
dream.
we have to talk about social calendar planning for 2025, by the way. That's a different topic.
That's the dream.
Yeah.
Here's the problem that people don't understand. There's two issues. One is like actually plugging together the APIs and getting it to work, which is pretty hard, and it's easy to say, hard to do. Two is even once you've done it, there's this very deep economics problem, which is what you really need for any compound task that's valuable is for agents to be able to act in the real world for you, right? Book a plane ticket, etc. If it costs $0 to use the agent and there is any error rate, and there will be an error rate, right?
Absolutely.
You have no margin to pay back for the errors. So the reason that DoorDash works, for instance, is an economic reason, which is they charge a ton of money for food delivery, and then their error rate is low enough, maybe it's 5% of the time it breaks, that they can comp you back when it's broken and not break their business model. And the thing I don't get, among many things about this agent happening now, is I just don't see, having spent time with Finn, with Andrew Cortina, building versions of this before, it wasn't, people are always like, well, would it work now because AI is better and you kind of anticipated this but early? And my answer is always no.
I agree
and it's
with you.
not, it's because you don't understand. The problem with Finn was not that the cost of service was low. It was that it was too high. It was that there's always going to be, no matter how good you are, let's put even a 1% error rate. And if you're trying to charge too little for the service of matchmaking, right, relative to the cost of services you're providing, it will always break the business model, right, is my basic point.
Insightful. I feel like what, Sam, just to give you a little bit of credit, which I don't think a lot of the listeners totally realize, like when you were building, you built this company called Finn, which at the time we were calling the artificial intelligence space.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And it goes back and even further, this was a conversation we were having years prior to you building that company as well. But I don't think, maybe give people a little bit of context as to why this point you just made is I think pretty insightful, because most people aren't talking about the error side of the economic model.
Yeah, so look, I mean, if you go back a bunch of years, you and me and Justin Schaefer, much people would run around the world yelling, operator, do blah, 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 right? It was very obvious then, we called the agent operator, that's kind of what you wanted, was the interfaceless.
I even built a little app for myself called Operator that I got slayed in the media for.
It's like, and it's a great vision, and it is kind of what it would be to have like a perfect on-demand assistant, right? And so years later, Cortina, who founded Venmo, and I went off, and we just said, look, we're going to start a company called the Fin Exploration Company. And we basically raised some money and told the investors we literally were going to lose all the money from day one. It was like the anti-pitch pitch. But the idea was, look, we know this is coming. Can we front run it and figure out how to do a hybrid human in the loop hybrid system? We used actually a bunch of very cool quote unquote AI. We called it machine learning then, to capture preferences, to prioritize tasks, to anticipate how long. It was like we did a bunch of really cool stuff to make it happen, but we ultimately glued it together with some human operators in the middle. And we ran the service for thousands of people and, made millions of dollars doing it. We ultimately pivoted the company over time, which we could get into. But in that experience, it was actually awesome. Like I used it a bunch, et cetera. It was not cheap because we had to pay for the people, but it wasn't astronomically expensive. It was certainly a lot less expensive than having a human assistant full 24/7 and available all the time. But yeah, this is what we discovered, is that the problem was not at all, can you fulfill the tasks? It was, no matter how good you are, you're going to run, maybe you're running a 3% error rate or a 2% error rate. Maybe with AI, you get that to a 1% error rate, but the math still stacks the same way.
There's still an error
There's
rate.
going to be an error rate. And if you're the person in front of all the services, it's your problem, right? It doesn't matter if someone makes an error downstream, a car doesn't show up, whatever, it's your problem, right? And so you have to be able, in an economic position, to pay for the errors, right? And if you're booking first class tickets, good luck, right? You kind of go down the chain. But I think that's the thing people don't understand about these agents is Yeah, you could probably get it to like calendar for
It's very
you.
insightful.
There's some basic low risk digital tasks they can do. But the real vision of how do you get agents to act in the real world on your behalf is much more of an economic problem than it is a technological one.
So, Sam, given everything you know on this, what do you think the path for Google to deploying them is? Like, should it just use it so it's like a feature of Sheets or a feature of Gmail or
I mean,
Well, isn't the most amazing part about this and like why Google might actually win this race because they have Chrome, they have the browser. And what
for
this
now?
is called Project Mariner. It's a Chrome extension. So anytime you're browsing the web, you hit your Chrome extension button and then you can ask your agent to do shit for you on that website, like fill out the form, check out, find whatever. And I think that like plays to Google's advantage in the AI race that they have Chrome. Like OpenAI doesn't have a browser that they can install this into, and Apple's certainly not like ahead in this race with Safari.
sounds like an antitrust suit to me.
Well, I was gonna say
I
it's
know.
I think it's further than this. I mean, so I've had access to this product for several weeks to a month.
Oh my Dave, you got to lead the conversation with that.
Well, you asked Sam first. What do you want?
I don't have access to shit. They keep me on the blacklist.
They know Sam hates AI. They don't give him access.
They swore me to secrecy. Sam's right about acting in the real world. Sam, you might even be right that this is sort of a linear improvement in the march towards better digital AI. But the one thing I will say is that I think they call it, Gemini in deep research mode, is really impressive. I actually think it's the first Gemini product that they've launched that just screams Google to me. It's really impressive what it does. And I think it, to Britt's point, brings together some of the things that make Google Google. It's like their power alley is not just Chrome, but it's also best in the world at crawling, right? They're best in the world at search.
And quantum computing, we have to talk about that.
Yeah,
too.
I mean, we can talk about the quantum stuff, but what's so cool about deep research is you ask it a question and you're like, go research this for me. And it spends like sometimes 5 minutes and it rips through. It's like I just browsed 100 or 1,000 websites and I pulled it all together into this. And would you like that put into a Google Doc or a Google Sheet? And I've been shocked at the kinds of queries that it can do that none of the other models can. And a lot of them are things like the stuff that you do want to research. You want to research, Sam, the thing earlier, like you want to research a new component for your Cirrus, or you want to research like, how do I technically add this piece to any system that I'm thinking about modifying, whether it's software or a car, right? Like it'll go out and research every single product, tell you the entire universe, put it in a spreadsheet, give you its opinion. It's really, to me, like the Google way of going about doing this interface. And it's the first one of these that I've seen them do that really knocks that out of the park, in my opinion.
For what it's worth, I actually buy this direction. I'll tell you, I this week did a set of queries on OpenAI, ChatGPT, not Gemini, but that actually was the first time in a while I was like, that's pretty freaking good. Which is, I wanted to look for all, I asked it, go across all the schools of Harvard and tell me which ones have updated their mission in the last year and how, in the last 10 years and how they updated it. This is actually hard as a human. Like it would be difficult to do that. And it did a pretty darn good job of giving me the answers, which I then validated and actually was basically right. And so those types of complex queries for web pages that don't exist in the world are clearly valuable, right? And like, I don't know how commoditized they become. I also don't know how long the web survives it, because when you take away the business model, right, like it'll collapse.
For what it's worth, I agree with that. Like as I was doing this a bunch the last few weeks, it just, the web person, the person who's loved the web so dearly inside of me was dying inside a little bit, because it just feels like I don't know where the web goes from here. And like, what's the incentive to put things on the web, and where do you put them, and how do you interact with these things, and what does that mean for human knowledge and the internet? Right?
It's actually not this dissimilar to the conversation you're having at these agents in the real world, which is technologists look at these problems as technology problems, but they're actually economics problems, right? Like the internet pumped a bunch of knowledge out of people's brains and put it in a specific style on the web, and it worked in certain ways and it failed in certain ways. And a lot of places that end up buying towards entertainment because entertainment monetizes better. But like the medium is the message, right? And so to that extent, I think we're just in an interesting point where like the sociology and economics become more important again, and we're about to shake up the board a bunch.
Yeah, for sure.
It did want to check that this was something we actually reported, but OpenAI is working on developing a browser, which would explain.
Right. Well, they have to compete. It's just like, will like the market share of browser behavior is already just
What's interesting about this is,
kind of done.
how do I talk about this? I've been in a bunch of different meetings the last month that are interesting early stage projects with very talented founders and industrial designers, people that are really focused on how do we get rid of the browser. Like, I think that's one of the other interesting thing that's going on. While like Google or OpenAI is like, we're going to build a browser, I'm hearing more and more, and I want to be clear, this is at the earliest stages, real sort of innovators thinking about this stuff. But there's a lot of conversation about how do we build a better internet that just like gets rid of browsers, social media, this like junk that is polluting everybody's minds and hurting their kids. Like, I hear this now almost every single day. And so it's an interesting question about what the future of the internet is right now. Like, there's this like, let's just keep harvesting the web in this way, and we're going to harvest it now with AI. And Sam's right. Like, what's the economic model going to be? But then there's all these other people that are like, okay, the internet's a good thing, but we broke the old one. We need to build a new one. And like, that's like an interesting thing going on out there right now too.
Without like giving away any strategies, Dave, because it's like a pretty abstract concept for people to understand how you replace the internet. Like, what could replace the internet?
I'm not talking about replacing the internet. I'm talking
Okay.
about building, maybe think of it this way, building new worlds or new planets on the internet, right? Like, there are many parts of the internet that are broken apart from each other, right? Like the Chinese internet and the Russian internet are separate from the global internet. Europe's largely killing the internet right now.
Mhm.
There's a lot of that going on, but there's many ways to slice that, right? Like, you can connect devices to the internet and allow people to be creative in ways that aren't a web browser,
Mhm.
right? Or aren't, like apps on the iPhone are a way to be creative on the internet that are not a web browser.
Got it.
Are you talking about like putting like butt plugs on the internet, like buzzing each other?
No, but
What?
what?
Where is your head at right now? Dave, keep going.
I'm just thinking about a startup we invested in.
Oh, oh God. Let's talk about that later.
I hope your LPs are listening.
They probably are. They always tell me they do.
I don't even know where to go from
Well,
that.
what do you mean by putting devices on the internet if not butt plugs? Like, what is this thing?
Robots, headsets.
No, I mean, all of the sort
Cars.
of Gen Z famously is like getting rid of smartphones and using flip phones again, right? Like, you've got like a lot of desire for different ways of interacting with.
But aren't they doing that to not be on the internet? Like, do you want to put the flip phones back on the internet?
They still want aspects of the internet, right, that are good and that they, need to get around in the world and navigate the world. But I just think that there is demand on both ends of this. There's like, the demand for like, let's create ever more purified version of the like crazy internet that runs through the browser and is, maximally efficient economy, like you're talking about, Sam. And then there's like a real sort of groundswell of like, what else can we build to create new worlds for ourselves that, serve similar use cases, but perhaps have a different way of looking at it.
And on top of all of this, I think Trump's transition team and all these new people he's appointing, including the new FTC chair as of yesterday, is going to have a huge say in how this all goes, right? Like, my question to you all today was going to be in light of some of these
How what
appointments,
goes?
big tech, right? Like, does Google continue? I agree with you, Dave, that a lot of people out there have this utopian vision of new internet, new devices. But the reality right now is that a few companies control all of the attention and all of the devices. And so, will that change in a meaningful way over the next 4 years with any of these people Trump's appointing in office? Or does more power stay with Google and Apple and Amazon and everybody else?
Look, I think the interesting question, if you want to talk about policy and big tech, is just the globalization of it or not. I mean, like, if you think about what's going to happen in a lot of ways. In a lot of ways, the whole I believe Trump narrative is much more inward facing. American exceptionalism, forget the rest of the world, walk away from it, right? We export a lot of power through internet platforms, and so it'll just be really interesting to see, you know, for instance, if we ban TikTok, which by the way I've been on record for 18 months saying is a completely obvious thing to do. The 101 version is that's good for
Same, couldn't agree
there's
more.
the 101 version is good for Facebook because then their American market goes up.
Fine.
The 201 version is it might be very bad for Meta because all of a sudden you're creating a precedent that
Yeah.
countries should control their own internet spaces even more, right? Because TikTok to the United States is the same thing as Meta to parts of Europe or whatever else. Like, why are we letting a foreign country control the feeds that people learn about things through?
But they're
So
already doing that. You got Australia banning social media below 16. You've got, I mean, this is already happening. Like,
I agree, it's already happening. The question is acceleration and extent, right? And so for me,
it feels linear. It feels linear to me.
I don't know. We'll see. I just think it's like it's an interesting question of does nationalism and America first actually mean that the way we export power through internet platforms goes down? Or on the flip side, Trump is very focused, which I think is good, on economic growth. These are the American crown jewels of economic growth and value. And so do we instead say the opposite, which is like we're going to force or figure out how to export this stuff. So I think you can make either narrative seem true. And I don't know where it goes, personally.
Yeah, and Britt, you've heard me talk about this a lot, and I think I've talked about it on the pod quite a bit. But what I hope is that we look at tariffs not just in the atomic space, right? Like at the atoms level with goods and services, but we actually look at tariffs in the bits world, right? Like we've got a deep digital trade imbalance with many countries, and in particular with China, right? Like we cannot export digital into China at all, right? Like our bits do not flow through their firewall. Like, most of our companies cannot operate there. And the inverse is not true, right? Like you ByteDance, you name it, like all of the Chinese companies have had a free and open ability to export their bits into our country for 30 years, right? And so to me, like that's always been one of the biggest problems in our trade imbalance with these countries. We don't talk about it that way, but it's definitely like if you just looked at the raw flow of bits into each country, like you would see this happening, right? And you'd see this imbalance all over the
And
world.
and again, I agree. I just think it's a really challenging thing because on one hand, we do have that problem with China, and I'm the first advocate of fixing it. But the problem is we export our bits globally everywhere. Like that's part of our power, right? It started with Hollywood, our celebrity cultures, our influencers, like we dominate bit exporting. Our software.
Sure.
And so it's like you start messing with that from a global trade imbalance perspective. It's like there are certain corners where we do claw back some power, I think, which is important in control of our own digital space. But again, it's a slippery slope because
Yeah, I understand, Sam, but I'm arguing to put the tool into the toolkit, right? Like use it as a part of the negotiation. As there's a whole set of tools that you're going in to
totally.
negotiate trade, right? And this is just one that it just seems like it's not part of the
It's like,
conversation.
look, if you no more Taylor Swift for you. It's like we'll take away Taylor
No.
from Australia if they take away social media.
I'm glad you guys brought up this topic. We have Bob Zellick. I don't know if you guys know who Bob is, but Bob was the U.S. trade representative and was a longtime government official who is recently become I don't think he'll resist saying an information subscriber and reaches out and sends me things. And he wrote an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal on this topic yesterday, which he just sent me. So everyone should check it out. But it seems like even not even, but longtime DC trade officials are pushing Trump on this very point. Trade policy means more than tariffs. An offensive agenda is necessary to promote the U.S. interests in the digital economy. So perhaps this will be a growing theme.
I think I saw that Trump nominated Jacob Hellberg,
Yeah.
who used to be at Palantir as the new Undersecretary of State for Economic Growth, Energy, and the Environment. I believe they call that position the E in the government.
Mm-hmm.
He had a great book a few years ago called The Wires of War. And he's like actually a quite smart thinker about this kind of stuff. So to me, like seeing that nomination felt like maybe there's an interesting thinker on this front that's going to be on the front lines of the trade conversation.
I will say again, I'm just, for all the back and forth and complexity, I'm very happy that it seems like we have a bunch of agentic people in government, right? We can argue about.
Sam, for what it's worth, I think that that analogy might need some explaining. I caught your point last week, but maybe unpack it a little bit more.
Look,
What do you mean by that?
In the world, there are what we call NPCs, non-player characters.
It's a gaming term, right?
Yeah, they're NPCs. They just do the random stuff in the world. You push them, they fall over type characters in virtual worlds. And then there's the agents that do things and act, right? Usually backed by humans, but could be an AI. And say what you will about Trump, say what you will about the team, you can argue about whatever you want, but it's very clear that they're putting into place a bunch of people who are players and characters and want to do things, as opposed to NPC. They kind of like run the script of what's been done. And I think that's exciting. I think there's opportunities there.
So, as an aside, we all know that our friend David Sachs was appointed the czar of AI and crypto. And it felt like to me, either Elon made that up or Trump just told Sachs to come up with his title, or they discussed it on All In. And that's what they came up with. And it made me wonder, Sam, if you were appointed for something,
never happened.
what would your title be?
It's okay. Luckily, you never have to worry about that. I don't think no one's ever going to appoint me for anything.
I don't know, with your new Harvard politicking career.
I'm
much a czar of something.
Don't you have a whole email list to run campaigns with now?
I like to suggest things in the background. I let someone else be the undersecretary.
So you're the NPC. You're not the agent.
No, I'd like to think I'm the whisperer. That's kind of how I see my own role in the world. But look,
but isn't that what all these roles are? Like all these roles that are being proposed are they're not actually in the White House. They're sort of like whisperer roles.
Some of them are and some of them aren't. I mean, czar, you see like policy czars for different areas. They're pretty common in Washington, and they basically mean like an unofficial advisor who doesn't have to divest of their other interests.
It's also kind of a strange Russian authoritarian term to use for a Republican.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's definitely true. But the other thing, just on this topic, Brett, you're talking about it.
It's a socialist term that a Republican is using to name his title.
Is it social? No, it predates socialism. Yeah. The czars were like the thing that they kicked out.
Okay. All right. Back to Jeff.
It's the emperor of Russia before 1917 was the czar. The czar, it's definitely not communist. If anything, it's emperor. It's like, and that's the weird part about it is very like old Russia.
Yeah, it is emperor.
Yeah,
you're right. A monarch or emperor, but even that is anti-Republican.
Well, that I agree. I mean, that's the weird funny. Is like I feel like it's supposed to be like a funny term that's become very serious. I don't know. I wouldn't want to be a czar. The czars all got killed, right? If you go back in history, the czars got executed. I don't think you want to be a czar. I think you want to be like I don't know, a first consul.
America was quite literally founded in opposition to a czar. So let's keep going.
Okay. Enough. Okay. The history.
It's gonna be fascinating to see how the new if you want to call them agents of Silicon Valley that are bending Washington's ear, what happens? Mark Andreessen was on Barry Weiss's podcast this week, and everyone should take a listen. There's a lot of good stuff in there. Her best question, or one of the great questions, was, how is Trump going to break your heart?
Oh, what did he say?
Yeah, what was the answer?
Inevitably, politics is complicated and those things will happen, right? So it is genuinely a really interesting time. And I kind of share Sam's like, wow, like what could happen? This is really interesting. But I thought that was a well-placed question from Barry.
Talk to us about Barry's new publisher.
Oh, my good friend Dennis Berman from the Wall Street Journal. So for those listeners of the pod who also like the free press, which you definitely should, and you should subscribe.
It's not free.
It's not. Barry and Nellie hired a new publisher who is a longtime Wall Street Journal editor and someone I really looked up to as a cub reporter and a friend, Dennis Berman. So I'm excited. There are a lot of journalists who leave.
Wasn't he also a guy who told you definitely not to start the information?
Sam, I'm just like not going to go into this. Dennis was one of like 10,000 people, including, I mean, Sam was pro me starting the information. Britt and Dave probably were too, guys. You were probably the three.
I was there at
Absolutely.
your kitchen table.
Jess, I was there helping brainstorm the name.
You know, I know you guys are the three. It was lonely, as opposed to now it's even lonelier. But
Oh, you have us though.
Welcome to the founder life.
Dennis is wonderful. And what's cool is he left the world of media briefly and did banking and did investing. And so whenever the news industry gets someone like that back, it's a huge win. So I think it should also be a message to all of the former newsies toiling in the abyss. Come back. We have jobs for
I
you.
will say, I really enjoyed when you told me this, which I thought was exciting. I went and looked at his Twitter feed, and it's actually awesome because he tweets so infrequently that you very quickly get back to like '08 and like commentary on like the financial crisis. And it's actually great stuff. So I highly recommend go follow Dennis Berman specifically because he tweets so little and he has good takes from 15 years ago.
Well, to many listeners of this pod, they might know him as he was the Journal's star M&A reporter for a very, very long time. So like sort of pre Andrew Ross Sorkin, even a little bit, like was really, so he's known for that. And then, yeah, we'll see. But it's there's some good moves happening in media. Maybe we don't need to go into them now, but a lot of action. Okay, we've talked about agents, we've talked about policy, we've talked about TikTok. Do you guys have? I mean, the other news of the week, I got to say, following this,
I have some news.
Okay, Britt,
It's not
go.
big, but it's interesting.
Okay.
Did you know that you can now buy a car on Amazon? You can
What?
find, order, and buy new cars, trucks,
What?
and SUVs. As of today, Amazon expanded
What?
into online car sales.
This is the best thing I've ever
Amazon
heard.
Autos.
Which car? Guys, you can't buy any of the cars you buy. You can only buy the cars the lessons buy.
Can I buy a Miata?
Oh, you can definitely buy a Miata.
And did you know you can also buy prefab homes on Amazon?
The haters really slayed me for suggesting Sam should get a 911.
Or Miata people in this pod.
Listen, I had a great Miata moment this morning I want to tell you about, which is I went to a meeting on Sand Hill Road, and I obviously drove the Miata, left the top down, popped it next to a Porsche, went into a fancy
It's like
investment
20
office.
degrees and
It was
Sam
great.
is,
It was great.
It's pretty
the whole
cold.
night. I have to admit, I had a slight Miata industry, which is it is quite low, and I did slightly damage it by like rolling it over. It was bad. Anyway,
Oh no.
so I pull into this meeting, and I'm walking around, and I run into our good friend Stan Chevnosky in the same office. And he goes, I
Hey, Stan.
knew you were
Stan.
here because I saw the Miata.
This is now part of your personal brand, Sam. You got to just
So
own
now
it.
it is. It's like I roll around Sand Hill Road.
It's kind of awesome.
And, I'm in the office,
I respect
It also
that.
made me think that I kind of want a Sand Hill Road office.
Sam, let's set up a co-office on
It kind
Sand
of
Hill
makes me
Road.
someone makes me have someone troll you and buy a red Miata and just park it in weird places where people will think Sam is, just that are like, why is Sam?
I think it's time for Sand Hill Road to come back. I'm there.
You're just saying that because you're a peninsula person.
Sam, let's set up like a two-person office.
Sam, we're going to give you the semi-last word here on justifying the Sand Hill office, which really stands against everything you stand for.
But that's
So-
why I stand for it.
That's why it works.
Because it's not the pool house. It's more than 10 feet. You don't have constant protein bar access.
I absolutely could have.
You're
constant-
surrounded by venture capitalists.
But
who
I
you kinda
like
don't
those
like,
people.
So
No,
No,
I
none of them
like
are there
that.
anymore, Jess. They're all gone.
No, Dave, they're all there. I literally walked in. I got text by. I went between Sand Hill offices. They're all people I actually kind of enjoy. I'm like, this is. I'm in. I'm all in Sand Hill Road.
It's happening.
It's the future.
So you're looking for like a co-working community of VCs
That's basically what it was,
who
right?
get
That's the whole
coffees
point
at
of
the
it.
Rosewood and talk
It was
about
like
their
next
Miatas.
to, it was next to Stanford and, co-working.
It's gonna be awesome.
And there were people in the office. This is the most surprising news I've heard
There were
this week.
shockingly all the VCs were in the offices. You rolled up and down, in your little
It's a
Miata,
Wednesday.
and they're
That's so
all
confusing to
full.
me. Okay,
They're doing work. I think Bitcoin's up, so they're all happy.
got it.
And there you go.
Bitcoin's
Okay,
down.
well, so
No, it's
that's
not.
very interesting to me. But the okay, so Sam, well, we should everyone prepare. Not now. The listeners have had enough, but prepare to talk about your tech professional work resolutions. I think that's definitely got to be an upcoming pod.
Sand Hill
Sam's
Road,
going to
baby.
Sand Hill.
Well, we're doing our 2025
I'm
predictions.
coming with
next
I'm coming
week,
with
right?
you, Sam. I'll do some Sand Hill
Yeah.
with
It's
you.
gonna be great.
We also never got to our productivity advice, which we talked about, but
I
are
like it down
so
there. It's nice.
not productive on this pod. Dave, you live in Marin. This makes no sense, people.
Yeah, Dave, stop talking about Sandhill.
Marin is not. Sandhill's warmer.
We're gonna build
it's way warmer
Sandhill
down
North.
No, is there a helipad in the Sandhill? There's got to be somewhere.
there. I don't think so.
Guys, I have a new office.
Joby, the aviation company.
Oh God, here we go.
They just launched a $300 million public offering ahead of their
What?
2025 commercial release.
Oh, it sounds. Did
So maybe we'll
Chamath
just-
do that?
We can fly in between Marin and Sandhill with Joby's.
Oh God.
I am meeting with someone next week who I'm excited to meet with live. Who I met him for the first time and introduced. I was like, well, before I went to business school, I made a bunch of money trading Chamath SPACs using a scraper on the SEC's website. And he's having this whole thing. I was like, I really respect that. So I'm excited to meet.
Did
Wow.
he short them? Or
Basically, yeah. Did he short?
No, he
them?
had a pretty
must have.
smart strategy that kind of stopped his losses, but like made him capture the upside on some and sold out of them and did pretty well. So they like, that's a thing AI can do for you is scrape the SEC's website. No margin
The
left
old
in it.
the old trailing stop strategy.
Okay, guys. So yes, let's give the people something to look forward to. Predictions, resolutions. Maybe we'll even look back. We'll do more or less wrapped. I mean, that would be fun.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think we should leave it there. We've given the people enough. Thank you all for listening. We appreciate it. We really love the feedback. Good, bad. We've been getting a lot of it, which is great as the audience is growing. Was fun to see many of you out and about over the holiday events, and we'll keep it going until next week. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this show, please leave us a virtual high five by rating it and reviewing it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Find more information about each episode in the show notes and follow us on social media by searching for @MoreOrLess, @DaveMorin, @Lesson, @JLesson, and as for me, I'm @Brit. See you guys next time.